Call to order and salute to the flag. Ms. LaBelle Pierce, if you'll lead us in the salute to the flag, please.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag, the United States of America,
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. School Committee Chair report, I have none. We have a busy meeting tonight, much to do. Resource Committee,
No report.
School Building Needs,
We met tonight, approved our minutes.
No, the other way around, Pete.
Huh? Oh, that,
You're on both of them, so that's why.
I'm mixed up here. Getting old, you know. Resource, we approved our minutes from September 28th. Calvin Brooks, city auditor, gave us an update. We have one grant that we are going to submit for $1,000. We have a school choice request tonight on the agenda. No line item transfers. Enrollment update. We had 77 new students as of October 1st, of which counts towards our Chapter 70 money for next year. But we have 47 new students, mostly from Puerto Rico in the islands, 47 who will not count, but they are now in our enrollment. So that's 47 new students that coming in from, mostly from the hurricanes, and 77 new of October 1st. Nothing on school choice tonight, revolving funds. Superintendent is going to give an update on MSBA, and the superintendent is going to make a presentation tonight to the full committee in the audience on Lonjo's roof study. We also discussed St. Anthony's.
any questions from the committee? Seeing none, you just mentioned school building needs,
right.
correct, Pete?
Yeah.
Policy Committee, Ms. Cragen is not here tonight. You want to, yes,
The meeting will
Marisa.
be rescheduled. It was supposed to be tonight, but Warner and Sally were both ill.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns, comments? None. Student support, Ms. Pierce, LaBelle Pierce.
There's nothing new to report tonight. We're looking for an early December meeting for our next meeting.
School Personnel Committee, that's me. We have nothing. We're going into executive session to discuss personnel issues. Executive Committee, there is nothing to report. Ms. Herndon, student report, please.
So the FHS Drama Club, the fall school play Melodrama Mayhem, was this past Thursday and Friday, and it went well. I didn't get to see it, but I heard that it was really, really funny. All last week, the PTO hosted a book fair, and a portion of the sales benefited the FHS library. And 83 members from the class of 2018 were recognized with John and Abigail Adams scholarships.
This past week, Unified Basketball and the entire Fitchburg Athletic Department was recognized as the District East Sportsmanship Award winners. So members from different different fall sports were recognized at Gillette Stadium last week to receive that award. This Wednesday, during the half day, we have our annual Thanksgiving pep rally. Our can drive just concluded today, so we will find out on Thursday morning if we beat Leominster again. And that's during the Thanksgiving football game. So students can buy tickets for $4 at lunches tomorrow and Wednesday, or they can pay $10 when they get to the game.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Seeing none, approval of the minutes of the previous school committee meeting of November 6, 2017.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is unanimous. Now we have a vote on going into executive session. Oh, the students' report. You want that?
Yes.
Before we do that, Superintendent's report, Crocker's Peace Project. Ms. Debbie Jeffries will be presenting. Ms. Jeffries.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for asking me to share our recent 30th anniversary Project Peace celebration. Project Peace stands for Political Education at Crocker Elementary. This annual mock election began when I was taking a graduate class 30 years ago. We were given an assignment to come up with something that could be implemented school-wide. I grew up in a political family. My grandfather, Peter J. Levanti, was a former mayor of Fitchburg and a state representative. I remember turning 18 and being excited that I could register to vote. I also remember that my friends didn't really care. So I thought that if I implemented a program at the elementary level, maybe it would make an impact on our children. Maybe some children would want to register to vote, like I did. 30 years later, here we are. I have had former students major in political science, and have had a couple of them run for office. We've had quite a record for voting, the same as the city, state, and country. In some cases, we even had the same percentages. Because of that, Channel 4 came to last year's presidential election, and although Donald Trump wasn't our winner, we did vote the same as the state and the popular vote. And this year, we voted for Counselor at Large, and our students chose 3 of the winning 5. We started with booths made from refrigerator cartons in the days of George Burke attending as our state representative, and how fitting was that. Crocker was built when Representative Burke was mayor in 1964. Throughout the years, we have voted for president, governor, senator, state representative, mayor, counselor at large, and ward council. We have also posed questions including two-way traffic on Main Street, year-round school, and school uniforms, to name a few. We once hosted a mayoral debate right in our school cafeteria. Our second graders were even invited to Governor Romney's inauguration at the State House in Boston. Unfortunately, we had a snowstorm the night before, and because school was canceled, our trip was canceled too. It was disappointing, but as a way to make up for it, Lieutenant Governor Healy came to school and read a story to my second graders. And that wasn't the only time we were visited by a lieutenant governor. Lieutenant Governor Tim Murray attended our program and cast his vote with the children as well. In 2011, then Representative Dina Talley, along with Senator Jennifer Flanagan, filed a bill for us for the spring peeper to become the state amphibian. And 6 years later, it has since been filed again, and now Representative Hay is trying. Our hope is that our next senator will work with him to see this happen. Other schools have had similar legislation filed over the years. St. Joseph's School named the state cat, it was the tabby cat, and Gardner students named the state bug, the ladybug. So they didn't have the trouble that we've had, but hopefully we'll have some good news soon. But the support of our local elected officials and candidates over the years has been instrumental in the success of this election program. They value what we've been doing and understand that we're all responsible for educating our future voters. It takes a village. Once again, this year, I met with classroom delegates, and we came up with the Crocker rules for the 2017-2018 school year. Each homeroom was represented by 2 students. And these children were hardworking, and they took their job seriously. And then they signed their names to our school constitution on the day of the assembly. And with all of the mandates from the state, you know, it's much more difficult for classroom teachers to find the time to fit this into their curriculum. And so I appreciate it all the more, and I keep that in mind when trying to decide on our ballot. And as I stated, this year's ballot was for counselor at large. And although it had a long list of 10 names, it seemed appropriate for a couple of reasons. First, we had parents, students whose parents were running for office, and we had a teacher whose parent was also running. And then I'm fortunate enough to work in kindergarten and math this year, and I know we're working on the numbers up through 5 and then up through 10, and the children had to choose 5 names. So it was perfect even for them. And due to the time that it takes to tabulate the votes, we didn't have a question this year. So we always want to be able to report our results before the children go home. They get excited to have, you know, their parents tell them how it turned out and if we were close. But I'm grateful to everyone who came to support us this year, including local country artist Whitney Doucette, who left us in awe as we listened to her singing the national anthem. and the many invited guests and those who continue to come year after year. I still have the same passion I had at 18 about politics, and I love to spread it in a positive way. Our students are our future. I'd like to end with a brief slideshow, and I just want to say thank you again for having me.
If tomorrow all things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. Thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA. There's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless.
Thank you, Ms. Jeffries.
Perfectly with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nicely done once again.
Sweet, sweet.
Moving forward on the agenda, communications, not at this time, excuse me, executive session.
Yes, yes,
We need a vote on that, do we not?
yes.
Yes.
May I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion made
Second.
and seconded to go into executive session. Ms. LaBelle Pierce?
Yes?
Ms. Fleming?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
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 Ms. Walsh, yes. All right, all in favor, we are now in executive session. Thank you.
So the first thing I'm going to do is give you a little bit of an overview of the Longview School. So to set it in history, in 2011, the district has been having 5-year strategic plans. And part of the 5-year strategic plan was actually to begin to look at our enrollment, our facilities, our utilities, and it was interesting for me to go back into history because the year of 2011, we had a $6 million deficit. So from that point of view, it made me feel a little bit better, but from other points of view, it did not. And the reason it did not is because this committee of the people that are there spent about 6 months doing research into the best use of our buildings and how we should move forward. And they came forward with this recommendation. And that was that a supermajority of the committee voted to endorse the following: that we should move forward with the renovation of Crocker because it's in line for MSBA funding and needs renovation regardless. Given the financial reality and the declining enrollment, at that time our enrollment was declining, and our financial reality was we had a $6 million deficit and really no option of how to get out of it. And the decision and recommendation of the committee was to close the Longzhou School. That, for many, many reasons, and many of them, all of them outside of the school department's control, this did not move forward. So I'm putting that as a context because I think there are people in the community who feel that there's been no attention paid to this and that there has never been any long-term thought. And we've had a long-term strategic plan on what to do with our buildings. So now to the present. So the other thing that I've heard people say is nothing has been done at Longzhou. It's been allowed to just flounder. So I want to give you just a quick update of some of the things because when I went back, I forgot a lot of this stuff myself. The auditorium looked like on the left. The ceiling on the auditorium had been collapsing. Plaster had been off. There was I think there were only 2 lights in the auditorium that worked. But none of this work in the auditorium could be done because the rubber roof on the auditorium and the gym were leaking. So we were in a situation that if you repair what's under the roof, you're going to keep repairing it because the roof itself was in damage. So you can see just in these 2 slides the difference that we made in the auditorium on the seating by just cleaning it up, cleaning everything up, and really making the auditorium so that it actually can be used. This is the walls of the auditorium, and you can see here, the results of the leaking roof in the auditorium. So this is back around 2012, 2013. And using the veterans crew, they came in and we totally repainted the whole auditorium. And you can't see it in this photo, but those pilasters, those lines, they were all destroyed and had decayed. And the veterans actually rebuilt all of that, and it was repainted. And at the same time, Fitchburg State University volunteers came in and painted the whole stage. The walls, the floor, everything was painted. This is what the drains looked like on Longzhou. And this was part of the issue regarding the floors, the ceilings and roofs over the auditorium and over the gym, better known as the Brickyard. So again, you can fix the roof, but if you don't fix the drains and you don't fix everything else, you've got water just pouring everywhere. So to the left is before, to the right is after. To the left is what the roof looked like when they took the rubber membrane off. So you can see that there was a lot of decay in the roof, and the drainage system was actually built into the roof, and you couldn't see it. So if there were breaks in the drainage system, it was sandwiched between the ceiling and the roof. So you didn't even know if there were any leaks or anything else. So all that was torn out. A new drainage system was put in, actually double insulation, which had not been in there before. And on the right, you can see what a rubber roof looks like. So after everything is done, the drains are put in, everything is sealed, and that is now the roof that's over the gym and over the auditorium. In the attic, and the mayor had an opportunity to join me in the attic today, this morning, with the president of the city council. So on the left are the ducts that create the air flow throughout the building. And those are massive, and they're throughout the building to bring fresh air into the building. What was needed was some sort of a louvered system, which was not part of the original system. The school was built in 1937, so it's 80 years old this year. So there are a lot of things like this louver system that didn't exist in 1937. So there are 3 vents like that. This is right below the cupola. There's a big chamber there, and in that chamber were 3 big vents like that, and now there are those louvers that can be opened and closed to adjust circulation, and then what you're seeing in the bottom is all of the electric controls that run those louvers. Because when you look at the building, you can't see any of this. It's not sexy and it's not right on the outside, it's infrastructure. It's like when you put in a new boiler, you're the only one that knows that it works and is warming your house, no one else does. Then this you've seen recently, the floor in the gym had been destroyed by the bad roof. So that little white patch is not sunlight on the left. Those were patches that volunteers made as the floor was decaying, and it was really like a washboard. Volunteers came in and patched it. So about 3 years ago, we completely redid the floor and put in new flooring and finished it. So that's what you have on the right-hand side. There's a classroom up on the top floor that had carpet that had been glued to the floor and everything else. That's pretty much, now this is during construction, so this is not when it was in use. But I'm just showing you what was being removed. So all of that was removed, and we've done that to a couple of classrooms, 2 or 3 classrooms that were in that shape. And this is the home ec room, which is a science room. That's what it looked like before. Oh, there's some slides that got taken out of here. Oh, sorry. Huh, okay. I have after pictures of both of these. For some reason, they're not on this slide. But I've shown them at past school committee meetings. Basically, this room was totally gutted, had a whole new aluminum, linoleum floor, all new science equipment and everything else. And this room is on the front of the building, on the 4th floor. For those of you who've been around a long time, it's the old home economics room. And that room has been completely renovated. And these are the new equipment that we purchased. So I also just wanted to throw these in. These are from past studies that we've done. This is from FY13, and this shows you the building cost per square foot in terms of efficiency. And you can see that Lonjo is up there with, you know, the 3rd least efficient in terms of heating and all. You've got an 80-year-old building. We've had boiler issues last winter. We had issues where there was a pump that had gone, and I have to commend the staff, the maintenance staff. You know, we're sometimes looking at, they're telling me on Friday, I hope to get somebody in here over the weekend to do it, and, you know, through a miracle, we've been able to get it done, and the heating has gone on. These are also the age of our buildings and their own. Now, the reason we put a lot of this information together is because when we make proposals to the Massachusetts School Building Association, we have to provide them with all this information. They want to know how many buildings we have, how old are they, what has been the maintenance, what have been your costs, things like that. So then you have to submit annual statements of interest to MSBA. And these are the major categories. So there are categories of the roofs, categories of windows, categories of boilers. And those would be the kinds of repairs that you can put in to do. And in Lonjo's case, what we would be putting in, just as if it was a repair program, and right now there isn't one that's funded, would be for windows and boilers. Looking at the recently completed projects, we've got roofs at Rheingold and Memorial, and also both of those schools have had solar panels put on top. We have new windows at South Street and Rheingold and Memorial, and then boilers at the other buildings. These are the different groups that have worked with us on all of these projects. And then these, so now to bring you to today, to this week and last week. Actions so far today. We have been in consultation with a number of contractors. And we have been talking with roof contractors and had have some come and look at the work. The problem is, the amount of work, what the work that would need to be done short-term is around the edges of the building. I did a walkthrough of the building last week with a diagram, and I marked all of the different places where there was leaking in the building. And except for one place, which is in the middle of the music room, and the music teacher told me that that was new, all the rest of the leaking that's going on in particularly bad storms, and when the wind is coming in a certain direction, is in the eaves section. It's right where the windows are. And the worst section is if you face the building, the top front corner, and that is where the wind just drives up that street and hits the corner of the building there. So we've already been talking over the last couple of years to contractors about short-term fixes. What kinds of things can we do? The other thing we need to do is identify funding sources. Unlike fixing the roof on a shed, these are major projects. The estimate right now, the rough estimate to fix the roof at Lonjo is between 1.5 and probably $1.8 million. That's just the money side. The other part is, how do you stage it? How do you arrange for it to happen? Because it's 5.5 stories high, and it's slate with steel nails. So you can't do it in the middle of the winter. And because you have students, unlike a lot of other businesses and companies where you can move your staff, we have students in there and school going on. So you have to figure out how you're going to do that. I'm not saying it can't be done, because we did some of the work on this school while it was occupied. You have to work closely with the contractor. You have to make sure you have all kinds of safety guards in place. And then ideally you have a place to move from one place to another if the work is going to disrupt the learning. So that's one of the things, and I'm going to talk about next steps. Preparation of a bid process. I'm not able to just go out and find a roofer and say, I'd really like you to do this, how much is it going to be? There's a whole process that has to go through local city regulations and state regulations in terms of bidding process. So that we need to do. And on the agenda tonight is $15,000 from Fitchburg Public Schools funds to fund the study, which is the first step, is to fund the study. And then once you have the study, you go to the next step to fund an engineering plan, which is the engineering plan that you'll then put out to bid so that all the roofers out there can say, I'd like that job. So then I've done multiple walkthroughs of the building, and there's a walkthrough scheduled next Wednesday, not this one, but the 29th, for city councilors who have asked to do a walkthrough of the building because they're very interested in knowing what we have and what the situation is, because it's going to involve them as a city to help figure out what is the solution going to be short-term and long-term. So there are 2 walkthroughs scheduled next Wednesday. We did a walkthrough this morning. I spend a lot of my weekends when it's raining thinking about roofs. Last year, I was thinking about the roof in Crocker Elementary School in the main office, where we had a tent up for part of the winter. Before that, it was other roofs. So this is just part of the job. And I'm in contact all weekend, get some custodians up there, check the buckets. Mr. Shalafu and I were communicating probably 10 times this weekend. And then I went up there myself this morning to eyeball the situation. Because you never know which particular wind or rain is going to be the one that's going to penetrate. Mr. Shalafu and I worked on a communication to parents that went out Sunday night. And I think the Spanish one went out today. We got it out Sunday night so that there was communications coming directly from him. I depend on him. He's in the building every day. He is the one that manages that building and communicates with staff and with parents. This afternoon, there was a meeting with the staff to share some information, but mostly hear about their concerns and what they were looking at. And I spoke with union representation after the meeting just to get some feedback and invited them to come to this meeting tonight, letting them know I'm going to be talking about this tonight. The next one was this afternoon. So I can come up with ideas, but I have no authority to implement most of them. I have to ask other people. I can't spend the city's money without their permission. I can't make decisions about facilities and long-term plans without involving the mayor and the city. So last week we had numerous meetings, and we had another meeting this afternoon with myself, my business manager, my assistant superintendent, the mayor, and the treasurer for the city, Calvin. It's because I need to know before I come out tonight and talk about stuff, is this okay? Does this sound like it makes sense? So that meeting was both about staffing, about financing, and about some other things that I'm going to talk about in a minute. And then last week, I contacted the Board of Health, and I just let them know that concerns had been raised and that I was going to be working on it, and I would keep them informed and I would work with them. And the director of the Board of Health was at the meeting today that we had with the mayor and the treasurer. So here are my recommendations, and I've done a lot of thinking about this. So there's a lot of layers to this. I'm facing this way because we've got a lot of parents here and people at home know what I look like. So we have a lot of different things going on, right? One of the things I did this weekend was say, please get somebody in there and make sure that we clean all of the rooms before the staff get there Monday. If there was any debris or flaking from a ceiling or whatever, let's try to have the classrooms done. So I had a custodian there on Sunday, looking at everything, making sure everything was okay, and trying to get the rooms as clean and ready as they could. Right now, my recommendation to the school committee is that we are going to relocate all of the classrooms from the 4th floor to the rest of the school. And that's for two reasons. One, if I'm going to get a good assessment of the 4th floor, I cannot do that if there are students in those classrooms. And then the other part is, if I'm going to clean that, I can't do that. If we're going to try to assess the condition of the roof, we've been doing it from the top, but if we want to do it from the bottom, I don't want to do that with kids in classrooms. And then the other part is that I'm going to begin testing in the school, in classrooms. Testing for anything, contaminants of any kind that might be present. Now, lots of people speculate on contaminants. You know, you hear words thrown around, it's this, it's that. I've been very, very deliberate and consistent in the 13 years I've been here. I only follow the information that's given to me by experts in the particular field that the issue is. So I can walk into a room and say, looks clean to me. I can walk into a room and say, that looks like this to me, but I don't know. It's not my area of expertise. So we're going to work with, this is a company we've worked with before to help kind of manage the project, is Woodward and Curran. We've already called them and contacted them. And then we will work with setting up air testing, starting from the 4th floor. And then based on those results, we'll get data. I'll get data. And, you know, people have said to me, to be honest with you, well, that's risky. What if the data comes back and shows that there is something? Well, why wouldn't I want to know that? So it's, from my point of view, that's not risky at all. What's risky is not doing anything. So we're lining all of this stuff up, and we will have the testing done. And whatever the results, and also, I'm not in a private school. This is a public school system. So whatever we do and whatever we have is public information. So we had air testing, an air quality test done in 2010. That report is a public report. We shared it with the teachers. We, were using it to look at what it was related to those vents and all of that kind of work. And I sent it to the newspaper today. So, but that's data. Now, the thing even with those reports are, people look at them who don't know what the numbers mean. So I would recommend that if somebody has a report like that and you've never read one before and you don't know what it means, you have to have somebody explain it to you. Because there's what's called a margin, a normal margin, and it can be wide. And I would depend on Steve Curry from the Board of Health. I would give him the report and say, what does this say? And it either says, yeah, because we've had air quality reports where the windows were closed for a whole week, so it wasn't accurate. The building was not heated for a week, so it wasn't accurate. There were books and all kinds of boxes on the air exchange ventilators when the testing was done. So the air exchange was not what it should be. So those are all, this is complex stuff. Those are all the kinds of things that you have to look for. So I will be, my recommendation to the school committee is that we begin to relocate the staff and students from the 4th floor into the rest of the building, and we begin to set that stage up as a place to get an assessment on what is going on in the building. Because all of these decisions have repercussions. If we just evacuating and relocating the 4th floor, that means that now everybody's on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd floor. So that's a change for staff, for students, for all of those things. If I end up relocating the whole school, the old Kmart building, where? Where do you put people? Where do you send people? How do you do it? And I can't just choose a place. There are lists and lists of laws and regulations on what has to be provided. And I asked the Board of Health, I said, well, are there other schools? None that are any better than what you're in right now in terms of empty buildings. Than any of the empty buildings I would be looking at. But I can't even just put staff in an empty building and kids in an empty building, and I wouldn't want my children just educated in an empty building. Crocker, those of you who've been around for a while, if you remember, the boiler gave out at Crocker. And I had to relocate the whole school for what I thought was going to be a week. It was a month. And the kindergartners went to Fitchburg State University. Thank you, Bob Antonucci, for welcoming them and feeding them for a month. And the rest of the kids all went to the field house at the high school. So the whole Crocker Elementary School taught the kids in the field house. And I have to say, it wasn't a horrible experience for them, but it wasn't ideal. And the teachers each had their box, their crate of things, and they taught for a whole month. But that's the dilemma I'm in as the superintendent, is when a facility has a problem, I have an education problem. Because I still have 600 kids that need to be educated. So that's the short term. My recommendation is the short term. So Friday, there's no problem with the heat in this building, I can tell you that right now. So Friday, Bob called MSBA. Because last Tuesday, we had a meeting with MSBA about the Crocker addition, renovation, pre-K, a new school, an added school, whatever it was going to be. And we did, the next step was an enrollment, certifying the enrollment. So Mr. Stevens and myself and Paula and Bob went to Boston. We met with MSBA. We gave them everything they needed, and they certified our enrollment. Stamp, done. So Friday, Bob calls them and say, we might be going in a different direction here. What would you think if we came back to you and said, we'd like to look into 2 possibilities? The possibility of a pre-K to 4 or the possibility of a pre-K to 8 on the proper. And they said, happens all the time. Not a problem. So I went to the mayor today and said, if this is something you're open to, we can just open the opportunity of looking at what are we going to do at Crocker, in terms of a school. But in the meantime, you don't build a school in 1 year. That's a 4-year process at the least. So, but if you don't start now, it's never going to happen. I had actually hoped to start in 2011. That didn't happen, done, finished. But it's part of the history. So that would be my recommendation to the school committee and to the mayor, is that we met, and there is a commitment from the mayor and from the treasurer to move forward to fund the replacement of the roof at Longjo. Now, that has to go through the stages of city council and all of that. Talked about short-term loan for that, very different than an MSBA project. The woman, Diane Sullivan, who was there, who spoke to us today, said, we're one of the very few communities, and probably a lot of people don't know that, and the citizens here, who get 80% reimbursement. One of the few in Massachusetts, which means that when we do a project with the state, they pay 80 cents of every dollar. So we only pay 20 cents on the dollar. So if you do a $67 million project for a K-8 school or some kind of a elementary and middle school connected or something like that, that's a really good investment. And you're only going out for your 20% of that piece. So the conversation today, very open to it. They have lots of staff there. They will work with us on that. So, so we would do that if this is the way the school committee, and they're seeing a lot of this for the first time. So, because I'm building this thing, you know, building this ship as I'm setting it out to sea. Because there's just so many moving parts in trying to run a school district on the side. So begin the process for assessment of other Longjo needs. That would be another thing, is that it would just say, okay, once you got the roof done, you saw the auditorium, you can't do that until you get that done. And then prepare to, in caps, there were some comments about that outside overhang on, what street is that? Pleasant Street. It's used to be the entrance to the auditorium. It's this overhang. It's been bugging me since the day I arrived. I've tried to get it removed. It requires an engineering study. It has steel beams that go right into the thing. So, but what we would do short term is clean it up and encapsulate it. Have it covered with aluminum so that it just looks like an aluminum, you know, a cover over the entrance. So that's kind of the overall picture to it. The big thing to take out here is, yes, there is commitment from the city for the short-term project of fixing the roof. Now, short-term may seem odd because it's not short-term. By the time we can start doing the work on that, it's June, because the work has to be done in the summer. But all the work, preparing it, the financing, going out to bid, getting an engineering study, is all the stuff that we have to do to get there. I'm trying to put forward a proposal that says, I hear the concerns, and I'm trying to address them on data. And the way for me to get the data so that I'm not just acting or reacting on a perception, because things can look bad and they don't necessarily have to be bad. None of the photos you've seen have been photoshopped, okay? They're real photos. I've been in that building. The parents who have children there have gone to open houses. That's where it is. But also, when you take a picture of just one thing, like we walked into the gym today, full of kids, the gym looks like a normal gym, the floor is renovated, and there are 2 tiles missing because they don't make those tiles anymore. They were made in 1937, and we'll have to find a replacement. But 2 tiles missing looks awful when you take a picture of 2 tiles missing. But when you see it in the context of the gym, you wouldn't even notice it. So I'm using that as an example. But, and then the other part is, and it's in the letter that Craig wrote, I've already repaired many of these rooms multiple times. And I've driven a lot of people crazy because I've had maintenance people tell me, why are we fixing this? The roof's not fixed, it's just gonna get destroyed again. And my answer has been, because kids are showing up in September. So we have repaired ceilings that have then been damaged again. We have repaired walls that have then become damaged again. but the alternative was to just let it get worse than it is now. And we've purchased new furniture for that building. We've tried to keep up with all of the things that make a school. And I said this in an email to the staff last Tuesday, I guess. I walked through the building. I went through every single room while classes were going on. I marked everything on my plan. There was teaching going on in every room. Some rooms, they didn't even notice I was there. Because what happens in those classrooms between the staff and the students is incredible. And however I move forward on this, or however we move forward on this, I want to try to find a way to create the least impact on student learning as possible. And I know, I've heard people say, well, how can students learn when there's a bucket in the room, or when they're, I gotta tell you, you need to go into a middle school. A bucket in the room is the least distraction for students in a middle school. I'm not saying that's ideal, but I'm not saying that their MCAS scores are gonna go down, because also the other piece is, Lonjo Middle School is our only level 2 school. We have 2 level 1 schools, but Lonjo is a level 2 school. So, as important as the envelope is, and as the building is, and I believe it's important, if in the end I have to move 600 students out of that building, I will move those students out of that building. That's what will happen. But it will be based on data. I can't make my decisions that impact the lives of 600 students based on perception. So as soon as I can get a company in there, and that will be really, I think within a week, we'll get a company in there to start giving me raw data, so that then when I make decisions, I can say I'm making them based on what I have here. And I know as a parent, that might not be enough for you. I don't know how to answer that. Other than I say, well, whatever anybody thinks, I'll make my decisions based on whatever anyone thinks. And I'm not sure you'd want me to do that either. So, that's kind of I wanted to do this first because I know that there are probably people who want to make public comment. What I would ask that either if you could direct it to questions, that would be the most helpful. And even more helpful would be if you put your questions in writing to me. That way I would have your questions, and then I probably will do this through Craig, because he communicates. He sends incredible memos to you every Sunday night, informing you of what's going on in the school. So I would work with him and keeping you informed on what's going on. But I respect your concerns. I want to hear your concerns. I'm hoping that you feel like, okay, nobody's waiting until, we tell them what to do. I've spent a lot of hours in the last week or so thinking about this and trying to come up with answers for you that address immediate concerns, get me more information so that I can address those immediate concerns, but also posture ourselves for a long-term solution that will be good for the city, and that would be some type of a new campus of some kind on the Crocker property. If we go through with that, the beauty of the Crocker property is you can build a brand new school behind Crocker, and when you're ready, you move in and you take down the school in the front. But that will all be decided by a study and an engineering study and a process that will all be a public process, because I have to come and deliver that here to the mayor and to the school committee. So that's all I have. I have copies of what I just showed you that I can hand out to you, if you would just pass them around. And I think you may want to go to public comment at this point.
Yes.
Regarding this.
Mr. Jokler wanted to make his,
Bob, did I forget anything?
Well, I just want to make a clarifying comment.
Okay, good.
So when we met with the MSBA, it was for them to go over the methodology of how they perform enrollment projections. So there was no enrollment projection that was certified.
Okay.
So you made that comment. So there is no
when will that be certified? 'Cause I know that-
So we are going to be meeting with them again in a couple of weeks to look at options, and after that they will be certifying an enrollment projection.
Because they presented us with an enrollment projection. They have to do this for 25 years, because if they're going to invest $60 million in Fitchburg, they need to know we're not blowing smoke. So they showed us, but I think you could say that what they showed us and what we're seeing in our enrollment is not far off. It was pretty,
But if I
Yeah.
could, the idea that we might be looking at a different plan would then involve changes in the enrollment. So, I mean, they're a very methodical, systematic, scientific, I mean, the regulations they read to us about how they calculate all of this went on for about 10 minutes. So it's very interesting. I had never done this before. But any changes, even if we changed by a classroom at a grade or a different grade level, they have to recalculate all the enrollment projections. So that's why it's not certified yet, because we're in the process of studying it now in a couple of different ways.
but today, what she did tell us is we can pursue two different solutions at the same time.
Yes.
We can pursue a pre-K to 4 and a pre-K to 8, do all the work for it, develop it, and then as we're going through the process, get a better sense of which one's going to work for us, and then finalize which direction we're going to go in before you start to actually move forward and build the school. Okay.
All set. Okay. We'll move into the public comment section of the agenda. Please come to the center table, your name and address, and reserve your comments to a 5-minute limit. Anyone wishing to speak?
Hi.
Yeah, you're welcome. Just come up.
Oh, no, go ahead. I need a few minutes I could use. No, I guess my comments, thank you for the presentation. My name is Stacy Fenton, 114 Bishop Road. I guess my comments, my questions to you, the presentation you have up there, will it be available online?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the availability of the underlying data that you use? I mean, outside of the pictures, what is the availability to the citizens of Fitchburg of that data that you
So
use to
as soon as we do any testing, I give that to the school committee, and as soon as I present that to the school committee,
part of
it's
the
a public
public record.
document. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what I will be doing. So over this period of time, however they decide and direct me, we will do whatever I'm told to do, and then we will schedule a meeting where I will come and do a presentation to the school committee on that.
You had mentioned in your comments that ideally you would have liked to have seen this start approximately 2011. Can you give me an overview or just bring me from 2011 to 2017? What happened in the intervening 6 years?
So because it was not approved to move forward to MSBA, the 100% responsibility of everything is now on the city,
Right.
dollar for dollar. And we made copies, here they are. So that's my other handout, I didn't hand it out. So this is, Bob, can you explain to people what this is?
Yeah, so over the last 10 years,
And I know we
attached,
said we wouldn't answer questions, but I'm answering questions, but this was part of my handout.
What Superintendent Ravenel was passing around a listing of capital projects that have been made by the school department and the city, either by itself or with partners. And those partners can be the MSBA, it can be E-rate, it can be Unitil, because Unitil funded quite a bit of lighting improvements several years ago. So we've put in about $12.25 million have been made across the district over the last 10 years. And if my numbers are correct, I think it was 62%, I don't have it committed to memory, of those funds came from partners. So as Superintendent Ravenel was saying, for the roofs, windows, boilers that the MSBA partnered with us, that was an 80% reimbursement, again, given Fitchburg's socioeconomic profile. Thank you, Andre. So yeah, it was 38 or 62% was funded by our partners. On Unitil several years ago when they updated the lights, that was a 70% reimbursement. And when we put in the wireless computer networks over the last, I guess about 2 years ago now, That was about 85% reimbursement, but there were other projects where the reimbursement wasn't so high. That's why the overall number is down. And also because there were projects that the school department and the city funded 100%. So, in addition, we have about $300,000 in green community projects targeted for Longsjo that some are in process. One or two might be complete. We still have a lighting project to go there. And what also is not on this list are the solar panels on the roofs here and at
I
Rheingold.
think she's asking specifically about Longjo.
No, I'm not. Actually,
Oh,
I'm
so
trying to
just-
understand,
oh, okay.
as a community,
Yeah.
as we make
Yeah.
these decisions about all of these
Okay, so
schools and
that's-
all of our children.
Right.
Longshore was bubbled to the top as a crisis this week.
Mm-hmm.
But how did we get from 2011, this building should be closed, MSBA, I'm 100% in favor of sticking someone else with 80% of the tab, don't misunderstand me.
So
That's
again,
always
yeah.
good business, right?
Right. So
But understanding how, and again, I'm not challenging, I'm asking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
6 years, is that the funding round? MSBA goes around every 5-6 years? Is that how we come from?
Let me answer that. Yeah. So MSBA entertains applications every year from communities across the state, okay? So there are two programs. One is called, and they now call it Accelerated Repair, used to be called Green Repair, which is limited to roofs, windows, and boilers. And that's what several of our schools have benefited from over the last 5 years. Then they have the core program, okay? The core program is a renovation, remodel, construction. And those type programs, those larger programs, require a feasibility study, regard engineering, but also the enrollment projection aspect. These accelerated repair projects, green repair projects, which we've done, do not require that level of projection by the state. So in looking just at the MSBA projects that we did, and they were called green repairs back then, those were all 80% funded by the state. At that time, given where the city was at in terms of its borrowing ability, they didn't really have the ability, well, if they did, we would have maxed out their borrowing ability, making these short-term repairs. So we were fortunate that the MSBA partnered with us back then. So now, in looking at this list, if we didn't have partners, the city might be $7.6 million more debt paying right now versus what, and not have as many options. So for us, having the MSBA as a partner is key to
I'm
our capital.
certainly not
Yeah.
challenging that
No, yeah.
assertion, but I'm trying to understand, we got turned, maybe it might be that
And
I'm
maybe,
quite
then let me be
2011,
clear.
we
Let
got
me-
turned
yeah.
down.
Yeah, let me be clear, because, you did say, you
No.
said the MSBA did turn us down in 2011.
I
That's
know,
not.
that's
okay.
what I'm gonna correct.
Okay.
We were going to move forward with a proposal for Longjo.
Okay,
The community decided not to move forward with it. And to move forward, and because that was the decision, again, I said there are decisions I can make and there are decisions I can't make.
Right.
Our direction was to go that way. The community decided that was not the direction to go into, so we went in the other direction to, well, we'll continue to make repairs to Longjo, and we're gonna focus our attention to the Crocker campus as a pre-K to 4 school. And now what we're saying is, we've now come back to MSBA, we've said, you know what, it's a different time and a different age and a different look at this, and can we now reopen the possibility of both? And they said yes.
thank you so much. Mayor Di Natale, you assured me I'm over my 5 minutes, so thank you all for your time tonight.
We took a lot of it, so.
Sam Squalia, 225 Scott Road. I'd like to thank you, Superintendent Ravenel, for the great presentation and the detailed explanation of everything that you had going on and everything that we plan to do. That was very responsive from the, revelations of what's been happening over the weekend and the public outcry. And I appreciate it. I think everyone here really appreciates it. And very, very thorough. So I have a couple questions from the presentation, especially regarding the proposal to combine Crocker with Longsjo. So we have this very stately, iconic, large presence in downtown, And, you know, it was estimated at $11 million to repair. Now, I don't know if that was figured from 80% from an MSBA to replace that? Was that just $11 million?
100% Fitchburg.
100% Fitchburg to repair. Now, I know there was talk about submitting Longs Joe to the MSBA in 2018. I don't know if that was for the core program or for the accelerated repair. Is that still possibly the case while we are submitting for Crocker for the K-4 and K-8
So what
dual proposals?
So what we have informed MSBA, because time is of the essence, to apply as a city. Well, the city has made the commitment to replace the roof. Okay. This last year, we applied for a repair at Longs Joe and at South Street and at Goodrich. All our applications this past year were turned down by MSBA for this accelerated repair. So it was not approved. So
I should put that in my slideshow, because I forgot that we had actually applied for that accelerated repair for those 3 schools. But their list of people lined up to get reimbursement is gigantic, and we were denied.
Right. So that's the first time, I'll say in the last 9 years, that we had ever been denied. Okay. So what the MSBA looks at is when communities do projects that they're going to be, there for the long term. So the MSBA doesn't want to fund a project that if there's a chance that it may not be there for 10 or 20 years, because then they have what's called a clawback. So then they could come back to the community and ask for that money back.
Reasonable. Okay, great. So if we do go forward, with the dual proposal K-8 and K-4 at Crocker.
And let me clarify. The dual proposal is really just the dual enrollment projection.
Dual enrollment projection.
Okay.
And
Then as it goes through
different
the
figures.
feasibility study, then that gets flushed out during the process.
Right. Okay. So the concern there would be, it would make financial sense to go K-8 at Crocker, and that would likely get approved. I'm just speculating. But if it did, then what would happen with the building downtown Fitchburg, the former high school, the Longs Joe Middle School? I'd like to consider what the potential use of that, because when we vacated B.F. Brown, it then sat vacant for 20 years. So
I'll answer that, and that is that will be a whole other committee that's going to work on that. That won't be me. That's going to be a community committee. But you're just stating the perfect problem. Okay?
So
here's my catch-22. We hate that building. That building's falling out. Get out of that building. Get out of that building. Oh, we're going to get out of that building. Why are you going to get out of that building? You got to keep that building. No, don't go over there. So you're expressing the dilemma that we have. For every person that thinks we should do something different and new, there's somebody who thinks we should do what we've always done and do it the same way. So right now, all I'm doing is putting in place the things that a superintendent can put in place. All those conversations about buildings and everything else is the responsibility of a broader group and of the city. So that will go to another group to discuss.
Can I just expand on that
Yeah.
and clarify too? So the length of time to go from feasibility study, which would start at the end of January, to, let's say, shovel in the ground on a project or completed project is 5 years. Okay, so in all likelihood, we will be, in Longs Joe for the next 5 years at least. So to preserve that asset, replacing the roof is a good strategy.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Hi, Jessica Wojcik. I'm 32 Beekman Street. I just had a question. I know you said in your proposal that you're going to have the 4th floor professionally cleaned over vacation and stuff, and the thought of moving the 4th floor to the rest of the school. What is the timeline on potentially moving the 4th floor to the rest of the school? Because I know obviously it's a lengthy.
So the first thing I have to do is get the school committee to say to me, Andre, you're not smoking something, this actually could work. And if they tell me that, the next thing I'm going to do is start gathering together all the people who would have an impact on that, start creating some plans, and I will, and this is to the parents, I am going to direct all of my information to you through the principal, because that's where you're used to having it. So I will be in close contact with him all the time, but he will be the one keeping you informed on everything. And in getting, now there's an open house, you received a letter, so there's an open house next Wednesday, the 29th also. So at that point, that's a week away, maybe I'll have more information, things will be done, whatever, and then you get an update then,
Okay.
okay?
All right, that's it for now, I guess.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing none?
Okay, thank you. So, back to the work of education, which is actually what I was hired for. And that is, we have two presentations. We've been presenting to the community from every school about what's going on in our schools. And tonight, we have the principal of Fitchburg High School, and we have Alexis Curry, the new, so we're gonna welcome you officially, the new principal of Goodrich Academy. So Alexis, come on up. Alexis has been at Goodrich Academy for how many years? 11 years as the guidance counselor, and she is now in the role of acting principal. And Albert Mercado is here because he also is working between the high school and Goodrich, and working as a backup guidance counselor. So Alexis, welcome
Thank you.
to
Thank you
the
very
new
much.
role into the school committee.
Well, as Andre said, I was the guidance counselor. I've been the guidance counselor at Goodrich Academy for 11 years, and this year I'm fortunate enough to have the opportunity to be the acting principal. Having said that, I will say I've been the acting principal for about 3 weeks, so my comments may be a little more brief than is typical, and I may not have all the information that you might need on the school improvement plan, although I think we have most of it, but if there's anything that needs further review at a later date, I'm more than happy to do that. Take your time.
So you can kind of, while he's getting that, if you want to kind of give an update, you're on,
Sure.
which week are you on now? Week?
Clear on week 3.
All right, you're on week 3, so just give a quick
We're on
update
week
to
3. I'll give you
everybody
a quick
on what's-
update today we finished our MCAS testing, as did most of the schools, so we've been going through that process in the last couple of weeks. We also have, in the last 3 weeks, I've done 39 enrollment appointments. Those are accepted students. We've done about 55, but we have 39 new students for the current trimester, which is about average, but we still have another week to go, so we probably will have a greater number of enrollments than we've been getting, not by a large number, but we're starting to do that. We also have a variety of new things going on in the school with regards to, I'll say, visits and community until I get to the show. So at this week, we had our annual college fair. We had 15 schools participate, which is the largest number we've had. So we're still working on our college and career portfolios and staying focused on that while we try to undertake some new initiatives at the same time. And we've been working closely with our former principal, and now I'm taking that on, and I've actually had some preliminary discussions with Ms. Giaquinto about we're working a lot right now on integrating technology and on using professional development to enhance our technological opportunities. That's not all spoken to in terms of statistics today because I simply don't have that, but I can tell you all of the programs that we have been implementing. And again, right now our focus has been on enrollment and increasing the enrollment to be where we were at, and also on making sure that we have everything else.
They have the PowerPoint. so
Oh,
if
they
you
have
wanna
it.
start
Okay,
with
sure,
that,
I
we
can do it
start
without.
talking about it.
Sure. So I'll just start with our mission statement, and the only reason that that's included is because as a school, one of our main focuses of late was to increase the size of our school community and bringing our parents in, but also our school council. Our school council has been small in number, and I've tried to make a concerted effort to get that to grow by looking into people who were formerly there and people in the community and parents and such. And we have gotten 8 or 9 commitments already to that program, which again, we're having 1 or 2 people, so that's not a huge number. It's very impressive to us, especially because it's past parents and people that were formerly involved in the school that I think have understanding of the history and where we'd like to go as well. So that's good. And we reviewed this mission statement just the other night, and the reason we did that was to make sure that we were kind of making sure that we all were still embracing it, and we do. And we spoke about the fact that while it's ingrained to our community, it's probably not ingrained to the passerby or to the parents that might come by and otherwise. So one of the things we're doing, while it might sound trite, is certainly something important to us, is getting this mission statement more clearly visible throughout the building and into the hands of parents and students. And we think that's important because it speaks to many things that we do that are very unique, and trying to get out there who we are and what we do, and just continuing, despite the fact that we have 200 students a year, we all know there are still people that don't even know that we're there or what we do there. I had another intern, I have an intern right now from Fitchburg State, a wonderful intern, but again, it's always amazing to me that they had no idea who we were or where we are or what we do. So we're trying to basically get a greater number of people within the school community to spread that message. So speaking to enrollment, you have that in front of you. I think there's a little bit of a difference in terms of what we see presently and what we may have seen in the past. This year was one of our first years in trying grade 9 students. We hadn't done that previously. If we did, it was with an exception here or there, but never grade 9. So as you look at these enrollment numbers, 7 of them are grade 9. We took that on to try to, as the years go on, we get younger and younger students requesting to come, and parents and families asking if 9th graders and 10th graders can come. So as just by part of what we did, we took 7 students for the better part of that. While the students are there, we find that the 9th graders are a little bit immature in terms of what we do. There's a little disparity between treating them like an adults and giving them so much individual responsibility, at the same time talking about 14 and 15-year-olds. And then just having the kids of that young age with the kids that are much older, because we have several on around the 20, 21, 22. So we've had conversations as a staff with Mr. Ravenel about that, and we all agree in consensus that we don't think it best for our school to have 9th grade students. And as Andre always says to us, it has to be an alternative to something. So we certainly want them to try other schools and to try traditional high schools first, and to make sure this for them. So that number I thought was worthy of note. The other number is our grade 10 number is also larger than is typical. So it just means that we're a younger school than we usually are. And that's not concerning. What is a little more concerning to me is that our grade 12 number is a little bit down from where it typically is. We usually graduate between 100 and 140 students from the school, and you will not keep all 75 that are here. So we need to make sure that our enrollment, right now we're trying to focus on seniors as well, and to maybe look less at the freshmen and sophomores and back to where we traditionally were with the juniors and seniors. We think that in our best interest.
Alexis, will you have many kids graduating soon?
We will have approximately 35 that will leave. Today was their final exam, so they'll be departing us and graduating. So 35 will go out, and we'll take in about 60. So we'll take 55 to 60. But yes, usually 35 to 40 every
You're
trimester.
going to lose about 35 to 40.
Yeah, 35 to 40.
And you're going to have more starting
Right.
this third
Yeah, we've already accepted.
second trimester?
Yeah, we've accepted 49.
Okay.
And I have about 10 or 12 more enrollments waiting. So we'll definitely surpass the number that that will graduate.
Are these 9th graders Fitchburg students, or do they come from somewhere else?
Most of them are. Some come from other places. Actually, I should reverse that. There's, I think, 5 from out of district and 4 in the city, so it's more out. Yeah, it's been coming more from other schools, and, it's each year we get pressed to, can we take an 11th, can we take a 10th? Now, now it's 9th, and it just, as I said, it doesn't always work well. So if we go over to the next slide, unless anyone else has anything on that, if we go over to Goodrich Academy enrollment continued, what I notice about this and what we as a staff have spoken about this, and none of this is bad or good, it's just awareness. Every year that I've been there in the last 11, our school choice students are a greater number than our Fitchburg students. That's not the case, as you see here. It's 80 and 60. So we're not sure what that means, except that the way I look at it is we have 60 school choice as opposed to what I would consider, because our number's a little down, so we should be about 90 and 90 right now. And that's attributable to, I think, a few things. One is that schools are not making students in other cities and towns and schools aware of us any longer. I think that's purposeful. We had a lot of school choice kids coming in from a lot of cities, and, you know, they don't all love that idea. So what I think that means to us is we just have to be better about awareness and getting out there and letting people.
What about the 49?
I'm sorry?
What about the 49 coming in? Do you have a breakdown of that?
I don't have a breakdown of that yet. No, I don't.
So that could be a
about
50-50.
half. Yeah, I'm going to guess it's about half. But again, I think it's that the number of our students didn't decline, but the number of out of districts did. And that coupled with the fact that as I look to the right, last year for the total year, we had 31 towns attend Goodrich Academy. That doesn't mean we won't again this year, but as I look at it now, as I broke this down for this presentation, there's 16. So I don't know if that means they're coming from different areas less, but right now there's something off with the school choice number that we're looking at. And I think, as I said, I don't think it's that there's less students that desire to come, and I don't think it's important that the number be equal at all. It's more so just saying that as towns around us, towns and cities offer less to their students for options, then we need to make sure that the awareness about us and what we do is out there. And that's something that we did when I first came. We went to communities, different communities, and, you know, in Fitchburg it was the Spanish Center, in Leominster it was different complexes and other places, and we just spoke about who we were and what we did, and parents and families would come to that. So I think if other school systems are not going to, you know, give us as an option, we certainly need to get out there, so that was the point for us. So right now we have 159. I don't think we'll go any less than 200 than any other year. I think we'll certainly still have 200 students. The next one is the dropout rate. Regrettably, I mentioned the 3-week tenure, right? Regrettably, I was not able in this time to get all of the schools around us. This is what DESE has on their website. What I took from that is not necessarily a comparison to other school systems or districts. What matters to us is our number, you know, as it goes along, as the years progress. As according to this DESE website, in 2010, our dropout rate was, if I can see, 37.4. And at present, last year, it was 22.3. So for us, that was a decrease in the dropout rate. We hope to see that continue. A few of the things that we're doing that I thought was worthy of speaking about were we've changed our system. We've always been a place that has been very much focused on not letting anyone fall through the cracks. We have a small number of students, and we should be able to keep, you know, a handle on all of them. But we usually call, I would say, when a student has 4, 5, 6, 7 absences. Our current, what we've currently put in place is any student that is absent twice, their house gets a call, and then we call every subsequent absence thereafter, because that's what leads to most of our dropouts, is not kids that are there and struggling, they just stop attending. So we're working on the attendance from that. We're also working with as much technology as we can to do the interventions in the kids that are lower level. And we're trying to get the dropout rate to decrease by, for example, we recently found that our MCAS scores in math weren't as good as we would have liked. So we talked about it a bit, and a few things that didn't immediately come to light until we spoke to teachers and students was a lot of our kids have been, some of them been out of school for 2 or 3 years, or kids have come through various schools, and they may very well have a D in Algebra 1, or a D minus, a D, an F, and a D minus, but they haven't mastered those skills. So what we as a school have begun doing lately to address the problem, both in math, MCAS, and dropout at the same time, where we're offering an Algebra 1 course where students, it's assumed you know nothing when you walk through the door, regardless of your age or how many years you've been in school. We've also begun to do Part A and Part B on courses. So sometimes it takes our students a little bit longer to master algebra, and we have trimesters, so we're trying to spread it out over 2 courses to give them more time to make sure that they digest everything that's in it. So that's just a couple things that we're doing to try to address the dropout rate. We certainly hope it will continue to go down. And in light of the enrollment numbers and the kids that are coming and the efforts they're making, attendance is getting better, so we would presume the dropout rate will go down again. Next is just a little bit about some of the partnerships we have at Goodrich. We really have several more. UMass Extension is a program that comes in all the time on our Friday afternoons and works with us on things such as nutrition, on healthy living habits. They come and present all the time. We're partnered with them. We are one of their partners. Fitchburg State University, we are partners, and we're trying to do a little more in terms of tapping into the interns. I've always had one every year I've ever been at Goodrich, and it's been a, savior to me. So we're trying to work with the departments at Fitchburg State to see if we can access a few more of those interns to help us. We've just signed on to the Youth Ventures program, and we're pretty excited about that. Mass Insight, and math science initiatives, and we're also, again, I'm new to this as far as brand new initiatives with grants and such, so we're just kind of speaking about, talking, and finding out what's out there in terms of grants and changes and things that we want to be involved in. But our goal is to partner with as many people in the community as we can, again, for awareness, but also manpower. College career readiness, I spoke about the college fair already. I will say that we are doing dual enrollment through Mount Wachusett again. That's always very successful for us. Last year, we had 12 students who took a college course, a dual enrollment course, which means they received credit both at our school and at the college. We have 18 signed up for that already, and hopefully that will continue. The number will continue to rise. That's one of the ways we try to address the high-end kids that we sometimes can't tackle in the same classrooms with the real low. There are just a handful of kids, probably 10 or 12 a year, that really need extended learning. We actually offered our first pre-calculus class last trimester. We had 8 students who needed that. So we try to adjust to whatever the need is, but we are partnering with the Mount and trying to make sure that we take advantage of all of those opportunities. And work-based learning plans, job coaching, those are not new. We're doing a lot of manufacturing days. The Mount and a host of other people have been coming in. I think the only other career readiness piece I would say is right now the focus of our job entrepreneur is we're trying to establish partnerships within the community. It's just always been something that I've noted, that we do a lot of helping students to get jobs at local fast food restaurants or various stores and such. And I'm trying to head in a direction, and again, it's just starting, but one of the things we'd like to see as a group is we'd like to establish partnerships with the community, with viable businesses that can take our students for, not that the fast food industry is not great, or not that those jobs aren't necessary as well, but we'd like to be able to find community partners that trust what to be our best students and send them over on a regular basis and try to establish a system for that. So that's what we're doing with job readiness.
On your college career readiness scholarship, the Fitchburg High School alumni, they participate in the Fitchburg High School Alumni Association.
Yes, they do.
Program.
Yes, they do. And we are part of that each and every year, and that is something that we're really appreciative of because, it's a different school. It's no longer part of the Fitchburg High School, but it is in a sense, and Fitchburg High School Alumni Association is kind enough to award our students scholarships every year. We're very thankful for that. Technology, I spoke about it very briefly, but these are just some of the things that we're doing. We're trying to make a concerted effort to use iCivics, Edgenuity, Newsella, all of the new technologies that are out there to make things more alive and interesting for our students. We've had passing comments about math intervention, things that we had previously. There's something called iPass, iLearn. We'd like to get back into our school for math intervention and various intervention models. We'd like to use more technology in the way of trying to do that. And we've even had passing conversations and a few laughs about 3D goggles. And we'd like to, we're right now writing initiatives that somehow can get us those 3D goggles so we can get the kids even more excited. But we're trying to bring technology in. It's not something that we used very frequently previous, and I think we are getting better at that every day. GA in the news is just an article that you can't see very well, but we tried. We have the Life Science Center. I'm sure everyone is aware at this point, but we received a grant for over $100,000 this year, and our new Science Center is up and running, and we couldn't be more excited. We have biotechnology as a brand new course that we're offering this trimester using all the resources available to us there. We will also be having our own labs for the first time. We won't have to travel to Fitchburg State College to do that, although it was wonderful of them and we appreciated it. And this was just something the other day with MIT students coming into our new science lab and just doing experiments and conducting fun activities for the students just to see, also to help us as to how we can better use the materials provided. We spoke already about the advisory council, just trying to build it. And trying to get a broad representation, not only of parents, but of concerned individuals. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Thank you, Alex, right here. We were just talking about the Student Advisory Council as well. We have not had any students previous on our advisory council. We will, we want to make a concerted effort to do that. Not only will it help the students, but it will help us get their perspective as well. And we're also going to we're going to make another effort at a student council for our students. It does get difficult. We're trying to bring as many activities as we can into the school. With the students' lives and accelerated lives, they don't always have time or even have any interest in activities. But we do think it important to teach kids about what they can do in a student council, what a voice they can have, and what impact they can have. So even if it's only a few members, we're going to try that again, and we're going to see what we can do about making sure that we get a broad representation.
Makes sense.
Strategic objectives, I will just say that Mr. Mercado, let's say a lot, who's over helping me, I think one of the best tools I have are the people that have been placed at my disposal or that I'm going to work in partnership with. Albert is there now already, and we are working on starting walkthroughs and starting to basically get evaluations done and to make sure that I'm looking at every facet of that process. We are using all of our students to go, all of our classrooms to go in. I also have a mentor who's, can you help me, Andre, with his background?
Steve Mills.
I know his name, I just didn't know.
As you know, when I've had acting principals in the past, I always find a coach for them. So the coach is Steve Mills. He was the superintendent in Acton, Boxborough, and he was principal of a high school in Worcester. And I've known him for a lot of years. He's coached a lot of principals, and he's agreed to do it. So he's coming in 2 days a week, 4 hours a day, and providing, one of the things, Alexis on the adaptive side of kids, boy, out of the park, really knows how to work with kids and all of that. But there's like all this other part of being a principal that's tedious and that you really need to kind of figure out. So, she's had to jump in so quickly into the job. Steve is going to be there to help coach her and
between
support
Steve
her.
and I and Albert, who's helping me as well with all of the intricacies of the school stuff that is newer to me. I have been involved in it being the school that we are and how close they are, but as Andre said before, being in it and then doing it solo pilot is quite different. So I'm very happy to have the people around me. And Albert has taught me all about calibrated. That was the word. He said, you forget that word, you're going down. Calibrated walkthroughs. So we're working right now on just getting my fingers in. All right, Albert. We laugh. But getting my fingers into, and looking into the other facets of things that I have not done directly for many years. And just getting walkthroughs and evaluations and trying to figure out how to put us on stable footing, stay where we were, and then advance from that point as to what we do next. And we're looking at a whole myriad of options available to how we can improve and enhance services to students. But other than that, pretty much it's going as planned, I guess. Any questions from anyone? Anything? Okay, sure.
I've attended several of these graduations, and I have to tell you, they are very emotional.
Thank you.
You come out of there with just tears of happiness. It's just to watch the kids, how proud they are.
Great
and
place to
the
be.
family, yeah.
Sometimes I say that to parents when I have a really apprehensive parent at an enrollment, like, I don't want to go to that school. What's an alternative, and why am I in Fitchburg? I'll say, here's the graduation video. Maybe you could watch it, because it does. It speaks to, it's a very tight-knit group. It's a unique place.
Certainly
Lucky to be
is.
part of it.
Ms. Curry, is there any thought to, this may be a question for the superintendent, but marketing the school?
Yeah.
Being more proactive.
Yes, I think we have. Go
Okay,
ahead.
yeah, so I can answer that.
Yeah.
As you know, we had Paisha here last week because she's leaving and going to a new position and a new job. We're in the process of interviewing and finalizing a new position. And as because this is when you've got a new person coming in, you get to look at everything and see things differently. So that's exactly one of the things.
Yeah.
And I just turned to Paula and I said, as we're interviewing this new person, if he comes on board, I can share him and I've got a couple of new responsibilities I want to give him. One is reaching out to the Chamber of Commerce. We've never had someone who consistently can do that. So it's always left up to everybody and it doesn't get done. going and meeting our manufacturers, going into all of our local companies and meeting the manufacturers, finding out what they're doing. And then the third piece is to get out there and understand what's happening at Goodrich and then market it out there, target where are the areas that we can offer this opportunity. So great question, thank you.
We've been fortunate. We never have a problem filling, and we've never, as I said, we've never gone out and marketed ourselves at all. But even in light of filling the building is one thing, but separate from that, just letting people know what we do
Yeah.
and letting them see what's going on in the city, I think is really important. But thank you. I appreciate the comment.
Did you, yes.
I do. How much of a contact do you have with these kids after they've graduated? I know the state asks us to kind of collect data.
You mean when they're not in the building once a week?
Yeah.
Hi, you're back.
Right.
No, we
Do
don't.
they come back?
Yes,
Yeah.
they come back all,
That's great.
there's not a day that goes by that one student doesn't come back to tell us either they got a job or they're in school or they finished this or that. But in general, I don't think that the communication with them post-grad is as good as it could be. It's a hard, and I don't want to make an excuse for it because we have to improve the mechanisms to do it. But part of the problem with our population is it's a very transient population. People will say to me, well, why don't you track how many kids are still in, the amount that you put in, or why isn't this or that done? And even in the course of a week, I make about probably 100, 150 phone calls a week. And in the course of 1 week, I can't tell you how many numbers change and how many numbers are disconnected and how many addresses change. So that doesn't mean you can't do it. It's just tough to keep. I don't know the mechanism. I think we have to look into that. But there should be a way we can keep better contact.
Just
But
in
it's tough.
terms of marketing, right? In terms
Yeah,
of just
sort of-
saying, this is where kids are at now.
I will say this. I would say that there's every student, every referral we've gotten to enroll is from another student or a family or a friend. So word of mouth is excellent.
Yeah.
Parents come in all the time and say, oh my God, this one went there and that one went there. And what else, the other thing that happens is, this year it's AIR. When a town starts to come, they'll tell other students about it. So we'll get a lot of concentration in that area. That's why, there's always a lot of Leominster kids or a lot of Lunenburg kids because it's right here. But once other towns become aware of us, then usually we'll have several from that town.
Ms. LaBelle, if I can just add that being there in a short time, I've been impressed with the number of students that have come back, referring other students or parents that come back, and then when they see pictures of other students who graduated, just the past couple of weeks, the number of parents that have brought in pictures of their child from their graduation.
that's nice.
Like, you need to add this to the collection here.
That's nice.
What better marketing is that, but how we capture that?
Yeah, right. That's good.
Okay, thank you. Good job
Thank
for your
you.
first
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you all.
Okay, Jeremy, you're up. I know you're looking at Paula's presentation and the thickness of it, but.
Don't worry.
Don't worry.
Don't worry, be happy.
Man, Paul, I poured through that, though. I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm sure you poured through it, yeah.
Don't
yeah.
worry. Oh, I'd love to see Jeremy's
No,
work.
why don't you- I'll do it.
Mr. Fitchburg.
Literally. Marisa, literally, I poured through this one.
They have the slides, so you don't need to dwell on all of them too long.
It's almost 9 o'clock. All right, so, I'm ready. I'll
Okay.
try to be brief, but please, I don't want.
Yeah.
but
accept that. No, you won't.
I will try, I said.
Okay.
In my 78-slide PowerPoint, so.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn to this a little bit as I look at it. So I honestly will try to be very succinct and let the information present a lot of it. I know you have it, but I do want to answer questions and be clear too. So this is actually a new picture from Friday. The mayor and Andre were down. We recognized our new class of 2018 John and Abigail Adams scholarship recipients. So we do a nice little assembly, T-shirts, picture, and I think it's a great tradition. And recognize the students who do particularly well on MCAS and then are on the tuition scholarship to all the Mass public colleges and universities. Our key initiatives really, I know you know a lot about the Chromebook implementation, but we're also doing a very extensive turnaround action plan with our partners in the Department of Ed. I'll get into that a little bit. We're also in a NEASC, New England Association of Schools and Colleges. It's the accrediting agency for high schools and colleges in New England. We are in self-study. That's the big year, actually, because it's when you do a lot of the work. And we're the first cohort of schools that will be doing the new model, which is interesting. So we'll be focusing a lot on that once the calendar flips, because we're set for a visit sort of later in the spring, and then a more extensive one in October of 2018, and then the big one in 2020. We also, continuing with Discipline Action Plan, I'll show some information about that. I think the big news there is we're piloting PBIS, which I know Positive Behavior Intervention Systems is a program that's been around for a long time. Not many high schools do it, so we're pretty excited about. We have a team of about 8 or 9 teachers who have been going to trainings and presenting with our staff. So I just want to show, I mean, this is what you see all the time, every day now. You know, it's with the Chromebook initiative in the school, and I don't know if this slide made it in, but this is every day. I mean, it's kids around the building, they're in classrooms, they're working together, using the full Google suite. I would say almost every teacher is using Google Classroom, the Google Docs, Google Forms, Google Sheets, Google Slides. I mean, it's pretty amazing to see how quickly the flip switched in across the school, and in addition to all kinds of other resources that are formative assessments, that are content specific. I mean, with the number 3 Khan Academy using Urban High School in the state, you know, which I think you'll see on the SAT scores, something we're pretty excited about too. So lots going on there, and I know we're talking about big investments across the district tonight, but this one's maybe not as much as a roof, but certainly it's a big one, and it's making a big impact, I can tell you. So first part for us in our improvement plan is always our grad rate. We don't have the new one yet for the 2017 class. It looks to be, from the initial data, which I think it'll be finalized in maybe a week or two. The state scrubs it quite a bit. But I would expect that it's going to continue to rise from what it was last year. And if you can see on the slides, it's our Fitchburg High School is the red line, the state is the blue line, and then these are our urban high school cohorts that we are a part of, you know, in terms of just categorization at the state level. So our goal is to meet or exceed the state average, and I think we've been closing the gap there, and we continue to try to work towards that. We look very carefully at sort of our demographic data breakdown. You know, we kind of green or red that. You know, are we below the state average? Are we above the state average? And I think what's exciting for us is when you go year by year, you can see that we have a lot of green areas where we're actually exceeding the state average. You know, so when you consider some things like this information here, when you look at low income and you see that it's a pretty significant amount of the overall population, you know, to exceed the state average by about 6.6 percentage, you know, points on the percentages is something that our staff takes great pride in that work. And I'll emphasize that, you know, our partnership that we have in Fitchburg Public Schools with Goodrich is amazing. I mean, that allows Fitchburg High School to have a low dropout rate, to have a great grad rate, because we have options for kids depending upon where they are. And Alexis and her team, you know, they do an amazing job, as you just heard. So dropout rate was below the state average, and again, I think that's our goal, you know, to be below the state average. I expect that that will be the case again this year from what we saw in preliminary information, and you know, cleaning that up a little bit and re-enrolling students. I think a big part of the reason for this is, you know, we've had freshman teams in place now for a number of years, and it really has had a big impact at Fitchburg High, and I'll just show you what I mean by that. So this is how the state refers to a tool they use to sort of give high schools a sense of where are your kids when they start out in 9th grade. So they break it up into sort of high risk of not graduating. You can see our current class, 2021, about a quarter of the class. The state average is about 8, so it's quite a bit higher. Moderate risk of not graduating would be 40.6. The state would be 19. And then a low risk of not graduating, that's kids that, you know, they should graduate. They're not going to need a lot of extra help and attention. They're going to go about what they're doing. So we're about 35.6. and then the state is 72.1. So we've put these teams in, and I think if you just see the difference between the freshman class and then what happens in sophomore year, you can see it goes down to 9% after 1 year, and then we're actually below the state. So I think, again, our school within a school, our STEM academy, our honors academy, our ESL teaching team, our humanities team, now a brand new one this year, they do amazing work of really getting to know the kids, helping them where they are, and then supporting them to get to the point where the freshman year is critical. I mean, like you heard from Alexis and Albert, you know, the freshman year is when dropouts happen. I mean, so our team does an amazing job. That's Tom D. Geronimo with the School in a School. It's Jen Scott with Honors Academy and STEM. It's Albert with the ESL team. I mean, they really, together with guidance, do a tremendous job. So I thought this is interesting to look at. No, because we just kind of were digging into it recently, and I thought that was something our staff should see, to say, hey, listen, we have our challenges, we do great work, we have amazing kids. Let's take a look at something that we should take pride in, that this is working, this is helping kids, and that's the point of doing it. So our AP results, I think, are really exciting again. You know, we're maintaining progress towards, really giving kids a lot of opportunities to take a wide variety of advanced placement classes, and then hopefully earning the qualifying score. So our goal is, we're not a gatekeeping school where you need huge prerequisites. We just want to get you in. You want to take it, you have a shot at taking it, and jump in. So we have 16 different advanced placement offerings, and you can see, Alexis mentioned Mass Insight, great partner of ours too. They've really helped us improve the number of tests taken by demographic group here, and then the qualifying scores to where we were last year with the number of tests taken by demographic group and qualifying scores. So if you look at like Latino students, we only had 9 tests taken in 2011-12. We had 182 last year.
Wow.
So that's a really amazing, support, and the teachers and the students have taken on the challenge. And then, again, using some of the online tools that they now have all the time is tremendous. So you can see our progress again before we got involved with Mass Insight to where we've been the last 3 years. Again, we want this to, our goal, we set it, it's up here. I don't know if you can see where the red dot is, and we want to get up to 200, but that's really our goal. We laid down that challenge to the students at the beginning of the year. We showed a couple of local schools. We're really close to being the highest qualifying score school in the region. We're off by about 25, 30. And, that would be something I think I know our kids can do. They want to do it. They certainly were fired up that day when they saw that.
Can you just explain to people at home what a qualifying
Absolutely,
score
yeah,
is? They might not know.
So AP tests are the culminating exam at the end of an advanced placement course. So, for example, if there's one in math, it might be advanced placement calculus. At the end in May, they set a date. Every student who's taken that course across the nation, Canada, even internationally, is going to take that test on that day. The College Board, who administers the exams that cost almost $90 per exam, then score it on a 5-point scale. 5 is the highest score, 4 is the next highest score, 3 is the mid-range. That's considered passing. And then a 2 is not passing, though it's considered to be almost passing or almost qualified, and then a 1 would be the lowest score. So our goal is to have everybody have a 3, 4, or 5. But again, our bigger goal is to get students exposed to college-oriented courses as much as it is to get to qualifying scores. I mean, we sort of have a dual purpose there, and the belief that I can do this is a big part of also I can do this, and now I've passed and I've got a 5 and a 4 and a 3. And you can see a number of our kids are AP scholars. I mean, we've gone from 2 to 30, and that's students who passed 3 or more. They're AP Scholar with Honor, AP Scholar with Distinction, AP Scholar, National AP Scholar, and we've had We've had 2 national AP scholars that passed 8 AP exams while at Fitchburg High School in the past couple of years, and those students have to have some 4s and 5s in there as well. So I was talking to a student at the play the other night, and she told me that she graduated last year. She went to Fitchburg State. She's a sophomore. And I said, how'd you do that? Well, they gave me my AP tests and my dual enrollment, and they just registered me as a sophomore. So I said, that's pretty awesome. That's again, what we want to try to do.
Tuition.
Well, she's just saved a year of full tuition, and she had the Adams Scholarship too, but that's an impressive, and there are numerous examples of that. And again, to see that type of thing, again, our goal is to get up in here, with 60, 50, something like that, but still, we're working towards that. Our attendance data, we had our best attendance data year as a high school in the history of looking back at it anyway, as far as it goes, at 90.9%. Our goal is to get to 92. That's our attendance rate goal. And again, we were really excited about it. When we've looked at the first 2 months of this year, we've been above September and October. We were 92.5 and 91.8 here. So again, our goal is, if we were 90.9 last year, that we're up to 92 would be hopefully where we end up at the end of this year. We also, I think, like Longjo, have spent about a year and a half really focusing on, ways to maintain safe, secure, orderly environment that's respectful, but also realize that, we have to look at some other strategies. So we did a lot with focusing on student discipline data and trying to find ways to, engage students that were, having difficulty or presenting difficulties. And so I think what our success story is, our entire faculty really took this on, and we presented it pretty clearly, I think, to the students at multiple points during the year, in class meetings and things of that nature. And we were really excited to see that, we were keeping kids in school without losing control of the building. I mean, it might, and that's a delicate balance, but, because we've got to maintain order and safety and all of that, but at the same time, when a student's suspended, they're not learning. I mean, you can give them their homework and their classwork, but it's difficult. So I think we're continuing with that, and I think the PBIS adoption and piloting that this year, and learning a lot about what that means and how we kind of flip that around, is a perfect spot for us in kind of where we are. So enrollment trends is interesting to look at too, because we have increased our enrollment. We're actually at 1220 as of today. And if you just look at 2011, 2012, the enrollment at that point was 1,083. And you can kind of see how the demographic data was broken down. And then if you flip to 2016, 17, it was 1211. And again, as of, I just was looking 10 minutes ago, it's 1220. We've had 50 enrollments since September 1st. So we've been enrolling every day, just about, and quite a few recently. In certain instances from Puerto Rico as a result of the hurricane, I think. And we welcome everybody, and that's, I think, the beauty of what Fitchburg Public Schools is about. But looking at the 8th grade, it's 355, but 7th grade's 420. And the grades below that are in the 400s. So I really anticipate that this enrollment number is going to continue to rise at Fitchburg High School. And, we've been talking as a faculty that we should expect 1,300 in the next few years. I don't think that's going to be, outside of what's likely. We just received the SAT results. And I think what's exciting here is we now do school-wide SAT in October. We test as many students as we possibly can. The only exceptions would be severe special ed in instances where it's just not it's just not reasonable to expect an SAT test for a student. And that's typically a student who's with us, but they're not working towards the high school diploma. And then any of the first or second year ESL, because they just don't have the language capacity at that time. But more or less, it's about 85% of the class. So you can see that the blue line is the number of students taking the SATs. And again, this is an investment as well. We've really increased by, in certain instances, about 100 students per year. And then you can see, we've also actually increased the performance. Mercado was actually thinking that this number is 470, for the combined reading and writing. I mean, our goal is 500. But when we look at the diverse population that we have and the increases that we've had, now that we've had kids who are taking this PSAT test, so by the time they take the SAT, they've taken that PSAT 3 times. They're using that Khan Academy prep tool. Only Brockton and Revere were higher than Fitchburg High School students last year across the state in the urban high school cohort. So, you know, we're sharing a study, 20 hours of Khan Academy increases SAT overall by 115 points. So we're really pushing that. Our teachers are pushing that. And, these are the types of things that I think are really exciting for the school system and the students. I wish I could say the same about MCAS because we had a down year last year. In English, we went down 7 overall points, and the growth was really low, which was disappointing. And, I think we're having a literacy coach really for the first time this year is already making a huge impact. Tanya Jarrett's dynamic and really understands the role and is supporting the English teachers. I think that's going to be, we're doing Galileo for the first time in English, which should be very helpful. In fact, they were kind of wrapping up this week. As we look at the data, we have some pockets of areas that we need to look at. The reading area is one. If you do the disaggregation of the data and you break down the test, it's just an area that we need to work on. So that we just did the Scholastic Book Fair, and we're trying to tie the accelerated reader percentages and increase those to get kids reading. I mean, that will improve things. We look at questions like that to kind of see, this was one that really we struggled with as a school. We weren't alone necessarily in the state, but that was one that we struggled in. 27% got that wrong. And that was not the average, at the state level. That was significantly higher. So we've been asking ourselves, what ways can everybody support that? When we look at our data, too, we realize a lot of the kids are language learners. I mean, the majority of the kids who failed the English MCAS test are still learning English. They've been with us a year or two, and so it's a tough test, if you're still kind of acquiring the language, but it's information that we're looking at, and our teachers, I think, having the ESL team now for the second year, they're making a big difference there. Math again was down, not as much on the achievement, but the growth was down quite a bit. And again, that's the one that really is kind of we're scratching our head, and trying to figure that out and doing everything we can. I think with the team and the math coach to try to address that. I mean, our big problem area last year had been our special ed cohort in terms of the results, and they were struggling. So we're working with, a number of strategies, co-teaching and Math Plus, and for the first time ever, we're doing both Read 180 and Math 180, which is sort of an intervention program. We'd never done either. And so we have that. We're up and running with Read 180 already with about 60 kids. And then Math 180, we have licenses for 20. So we have a plan to roll that out and try to just fill in some gaps, and really help kids to get to where they need to be. Bio was solid, with 75% advanced and proficient. We kind of break our science test into 2 groups. Typically, it's a freshman test. With biology tends to be our Honors Academy students, in addition to probably about 3 or 4 other sections of students who kind of come to us in different ways. They just, like I said, we've enrolled 50 since September 1st. And 2 or 3 today, and they come all the time. So we have to have them, give them an option that will work for MCAS. The engineering test, which the state is actually phasing out, tends to be our school within a school student, and it's kind of a mix with our STEM academy as well. So if we look at those results, they don't look very good. But actually, in certain instances, there's been growth there, and given our progress around that, we look at it differently because we try to look for that growth piece too. I think an interesting piece, and I think I talked about this maybe with a couple of you, is, when we look at the groups, we definitely see some trends. If a student is with us, for a significant period of time, I think it really emphasizes that the Fitchburg Public Schools does a great job, and that is highlighted here when you see, 40% advanced if a student was enrolled from kindergarten through second grade, and they've been with the district all along. The blue line is the advanced line. You can see it just goes down from K to 2 to K to 4 to a middle school enrollment to a high school. We get them in high school too. This is a big group of kids. We test them, and then they're gone. I mean, 45. It'll be like 45
Wow.
from now to, and that's a group that's probably moved 15 times over the course of the time we get them to take the test. And it's just, it's a challenge. It's not an excuse. It's just a presentation of some information. Again, this is math sort of broken out a little bit so you can just see advanced and proficient. So the longer the students are with Fitchburg Public Schools, you can really see advanced.
Almost the same numbers.
It's interesting.
40, 35, it's almost identical. That's amazing.
And then with English too, and that's failing. So if they're with us from K to 2, as opposed to they come into us in high school 4 times higher, and then this is that group that is not insignificant. It's not 5. It's sometimes 30, 40, between sophomore to junior year. English is even more profound because if you look at it, from kindergarten through second grade enrollment, it's 92% advanced and proficient, 0% failing. And again, when they sort of come in at different points in this sort of very transient group, you get 12% failing. So again, I think it's a testament, very clear to me, that when student is in the Fitchburg Public Schools from kindergarten on, second grade on, third grade on, they're getting a great education that's going to continue right through Fitchburg High School. And there's a lot to be said for reasons why, but I think that our district does a great job, and I think it's illustrated there. And we're trying to do everything we can too, with every kid. I mean, like I said, we've enrolled 15 students from Puerto Rico since October 1. They need to be at Fitchburg High. They've had a traumatic situation come up in their lives. We welcome them through the door. It's gonna be challenging to get them to pass MCAS this year, but that's what we're gonna try to do, and give them the best opportunity. Chromebooks, beautiful classrooms, great teachers, all kinds of resources, and I think again it's the beauty of what the school system is about. So again, that's another look at it from just the areas that are broken down a little bit further, and I know it's in the packet too. So our action plan, our real focus, and I heard Albert talking with Alexis about calibrating walkthroughs. We're doing those every day. We do those, myself, Jen Scott, Tom DiGeronimo, Albert, Mark Minucci. We give feedback to the staff. We report out the feedback trends to the staff. We've had a DSAC person, which is a part of the Department of Ed that really focuses on professional development and data analysis, has been working with us. Sarah Jordan, I think she was here too at one point, at Memorial, I mean. So it's been great. I mean, it's really been amazing to be able to get that focused. And having the third assistant principal, I mean, I will be honest, has allowed me to get into classes more. And, I think I've done about 100 of these walkthrough evaluations, already, and she calibrates the data on that. So it's really helpful, and our goal is that's our goal. And that if we can do that as a school, we will make progress, and that's our intent. So next steps are kind of clearly connected with what we're doing, as I said at the beginning, focusing on that action plan, preparing for the NEASC accreditation process, making sure that we're doing everything we can to engage students, all students every day, working, piloting PBIS and really just doing the best we can for the students in Fitchburg High School and the Fitchburg schools. So that was not very quick, I know.
It was quicker than it could have been.
Yeah, you did. Because you know me.
He said, I'll be quick.
Yeah.
No one's watching at this point.
On the walkthroughs, Jeremy, I know they're non-evaluative for the most part, right? They're all formative assessment kind of pieces. But I'd like to know, and maybe you could just speak to this, to what degree student engagement is measured, and what feedback are you, first of all, they're unannounced, right? Like,
Yes.
You're not, okay, so you're just going
Completely.
in.
Yeah. I think I did 9 today, mostly in the English department, just 3rd floor.
Because testing is what it is, but the most important thing, I think, is that students are actually engaged and they're interested
Yeah.
in what they're doing. So I guess I'm curious kind of what you see.
Well, I think that's a great point. And what I see is people are really working hard. So we set up a structure. We want to see a specific learning and language objective in every classroom. And we've done a lot of work on what that would look like. We want to see an activator. First 5 minutes, there's something connected to what we're going to do today that engages the students in that learning, in that thinking, in that content, acquisition, whatever it might be. We want to see a summarizer. At the end of the lesson, how are you bringing it back to, what you set out to do and the learning goals and the specific objectives and the language objectives, how it's going to be done. We're either going to do it in complete sentences orally, we're going to write a paragraph, we're going to learn these key terms, whatever it might be. I just presented to the staff the other day. We had 88 of those walkthrough observations calibrated by our DSAC person that's helping us, Sarah Jordan. And I think it was 67 had all of the components in place. Now, when we go in, I sometimes, every time, go in at various points, 25 minutes into the lesson, 42 minutes into the lesson, 13. And so we have been, Albert said it earlier, Mikado, calibrating. So we'll sit down and debrief. What did you see? Here's what I was thinking for feedback. What do you think of that? So we go back and forth and we, again, calibrate. We kind of come to a group consensus of this is what we saw there. And then what's the best feedback to give? A lot of the feedback that we're giving is focusing on increasing academic discourse, getting the kids talking and using the language of the content or the learning. So it might need, some of the classes might need real specific feedback on think about using sentence stems, sentence starters, because they're going to need that access point. Other ones, it might be develop a group activity where the roles are very clearly specified, the segment is timed, and each person has a piece of whatever the reading or the content was, and then they can rotate around. So we get real specific in it because we're trying to, as you said, have students doing as much of the lifting as possible. And into it, and having fun and excited, and using different resources and tools. And I am seeing a lot of that. I really feel like the staff is embracing this. It's painful. I know I'm critical, I know that. But it's critical from the perspective of feedback that we can all use to try to improve. Not that someone's doing a bad job or anything. It's just how do we get better? And I think feedback is, as Vince Lombardi said, the breakfast of champions. I mean, it really is.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know, you can't improve.
Yeah.
Does that answer your
Yeah,
question?
it does, thank you.
Other questions?
I just have a comment. Yes. I just want to congratulate you. This is really thorough. It's as always, very informative. And it just seems to me like, I like the idea that I don't think you're ever satisfied. This is where we are, but this is where we could be. And confident too. I know that our students can do it. And I know from my teaching experience that if you say to a class, my goals are really high, but I know that you're capable of doing this, they automatically sit up a little straighter, pay attention a little more closely, and have that confidence that they can do it. So I commend you.
Thank you very much. And as you said, expectations are also part and parcel of reaching towards some of those lofty goals that we have. I mean, we have to set the bar high and maintain it because our kids can do it.
Yeah.
Bob.
I just have a question. You referenced our performance relative to like Brockton and Revere, right?
Yes.
Do you have DART tools where you can, you went through a lot of
Yeah.
data specific. Can you compare Fitchburg versus Brockton and Revere on that level?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm just, I mean, more.
Yeah, I can. I mean, I
was
think
just curious.
the reality is, and we just got a report from our DSAC folks, from the Department of Ed, that was an analysis of high schools that are engaging in what we're doing, which is voluntarily going through this turnaround process to try to move out of level 3. And the report was pretty clear that high schools are really struggling to do this. Almost every urban high school is level 3 or 4, with the exception, and in the report it lists 3 of the high-performing urban high schools: Brockton High School, Somerville High School, and a New Mission, which is an exam, apparently, entry
Mission Hill.
high school as part of Boston Public. So the 10 other high schools that it was comparing, they didn't name, but it could just as well be Fitchburg High School, because as I said, when we look at the breakdown of the urban high schools, I was just talking to another colleague from another one, and we share a lot of the same kind of struggles. The optimism that I'm feeling right now is, I think that this process that we've engaged in voluntarily has really helped us refine our focus almost super specifically on one thing, because we know the most critical factor, the most influential factor is a teacher, and good teaching is and we have great teachers, but that's our, that's a huge asset that we have and a huge resource that we have. So I think focusing on how we can help our teachers across the board do an even better job, given some of the, the challenges that we have, I think is what we focused on back in May when we had the report. This is where we can really, we have the stuff. We got a great building. First part of the meeting today, that's not Fitchburg High. We're very fortunate. We have great resources, the Chromebooks, the materials in the classroom. I mean, we've gone from 6 AP offerings to 16. I mean, you come to Fitchburg High School, you're getting what you'd get at Newton and Lincoln and these other sort of affluent communities that, I think it's very comparable in terms of you walk through the door to what we have to offer. Our class sizes, everything. So really, it's how do we do a better job? And I think this process around focusing on instructional strategies with the walkthroughs, with the feedback, I feel very good about what our staff is doing and the ideas they're sharing every day and the things they're trying to do to support one another and embrace this. I'm really excited about it.
Could I just tell you?
Thank
The
you.
rest of the committee, you should know this. I mean, so for anybody who's still up watching this, if you're thinking of sending your child to Fitchburg High, do it, because just another thing that you do that I think is just so effective. Parents and students can sign up for Mr. Roach's Remind, and every morning you get a text at 5:46 a.m., 5:56 a.m., 6:11 a.m. Sometimes it's really good to wake my daughter up. Sorry, she does have her phone in her room, Andre. I know you're upset about that, but it's an alarm clock.
That's right.
But and it has all these day reminders and things, quotes. I can do things you cannot. You can do things I cannot. Together we can do great things. Reminder: let's hit 92% for attendance. I mean, this is daily. And it's just a great feature to keep kids on track, to keep parents informed. I'm so grateful for it, not just to remind me to wear red and gray or something, but that I think it's just a personal touch to kids. So thank you. It's great.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. And speaking of red and gray, if we ever go to a school uniform, it's going to be exactly what Jeremy's wearing. I mean, down to the gray socks. People on TV can't see he's wearing gray socks. I mean, Okay. All right. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks a
I
lot.
appreciate it.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
It's about to Crocker Field at 10 a.m.
All right. We'll be there.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I make a motion to table a district improvement plan until next meeting? We can't.
Yes, give me.
Well, you can, but you have 4 school that's why I put it here.
Oh.
Just go to it. Just go to it. Pete, trust me. Just go to it.
Okay, I will withdraw my.
Okay. Fitchburg Public Schools District Improvement Plan, Paula Giaquinto.
In compliance with Mass General Law, Chapter 69, Section 1L, the district must have a district improvement plan that's aligned to school improvement plans. The intention was to bring it to you. It's just for your review, so you can read it at your leisure. But it was going to be at the end, but since Patty adjusted the 2 tonight and more on December 6th, it's here as part of your packet tonight. But this is, you don't have to approve it, it's just for you to read and kind of understand in the context of the school improvement plans. So, thank you.
Questions?
Very good.
Okay, and you have a grant on there, and it's a grant for $1,000 to be accepted, and you have a school choice request for Chromebooks for our ELL students at Fitchburg High School. No, not Fitchburg High School. That was because we.
Several of the schools.
Several of the schools.
District-wide,
Right,
ELL.
it's a number of schools, but just
Bonnie Bear.
specifically for ELL students. And then I would imagine you're removing the policy item from the agenda because we're tabling that.
Okay. So, action items?
Could I move to bundle them?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
I'd move to bundle 17,944 through 17,949. 47.
We have to delete 948.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so 944 to 947, and then 949?
I'll second that.
Okay.
All right, motion made and seconded, and we're including, what is it, 944, up through and including 947?
No.
And
Yeah,
then
excuse
nine-
me,
and then
949.
And then 949.
Yes.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is unanimous. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in- Yes, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.